Start recording. Stop recording. Button.
Good afternoon, everybody. Welcome to another episode of the Thomas and Haley Show with your host, of course, Thomas from Doing Everything Blind. Hey, Talented HB from Talented HB. Today in this episode, we will be talking about how you write stories. So what I mean by that is what kind of stories you write, how we got into it, how we come up with characters. Just for the record, I really mean by like what type of technology we use to write the stories, because obviously I use my computer and Thomas uses his voice note Apex or whatever that gets called. So, Thomas, please tell everybody else what kind of. First of all, tell them what kind of stories you write, and then I'll say that with mine, then we'll talk about the characters or whatever. Let's take one thing at a time.
Well, first of all, you are correct in saying that I write my stories with my voice note Apex. I write love stories.
Very good.
Nice.
Mine are basically anything. So, like, as long as I get like a title, I'm able to write anything. But all the stories I write are fiction, which means they're not real. They're not true.
Yeah.
So sometimes they're like fairy tale magic stories. Sometimes they're like drama romance stories or whatever. So they're all different. Okay. What type of characters do you develop, or like how do you come up with a character?
Well, a lot of characters that I use in my story are, sometimes I use characters from my real life. A lot of times I'll use characters, the names of characters of people who I know in my real life. In my life, I should say.
Wait, real life and a fake life? Thomas, I'm depressed.
And so that's what I do.
Okay.
I do make up characters, but a lot of characters that I use in my stories are people I know in my life.
Okay. So for me, all my characters are made up. Now, of course, they may have the same first name as some people, because there's so many names. But I never like a real person, like a person that I actually know in my real life. I never first and last name, because I just don't write like that. I always come up with the characters. And even a friend of mine always asks me, where do you get these names from? I'm like, I honestly have no idea. It's like, I just come up with them.
Yeah.
So, okay. Also, for me, with writing stories, I make sure that it's not, like, I have to use, like, the same character names so many times, like, in different stories, because then it'd be boring, repetitive characters. Which, Thomas, I will admit, you do that quite a bit. I'm not even gonna lie. Anyways, so we talked about what type of technology we use to write the story, talked about the types of characters we do, what stories. What got you into writing the stories, Thomas?
Well, when I was in
That too.
As far as I started writing as far back as elementary school. And then I, had a creative writing class at Perkins School for the Blind, and I would write stories. Of course, they were not as good as they are now. I'm not bragging. I'm just saying that, I was a kid, so I didn't know how to write that well. I mean, I didn't, I don't I'm an adult now, so obviously I write adult stories, but, when I had my creative writing class, the stories weren't really interesting. They were okay, but, they weren't as interesting. Anyway, to answer your question, that's how I got started. I really started enjoying writing all throughout school, elementary school, and when I was at Perkins.
Cool. For me, I don't know exactly how it happened. Just like in the middle, it was either my 9th or my 10th year of high school in Governor Moorhead School for the Blind, which is in Carolina. after just one day after I just wrote a story.
Yeah.
And my very first story was called Anna's Village, where it was about this girl named Zoe who was 13, who still believed in magic and stuff, and her parents thought she was crazy. She picked up magic things, runs away from home, and she actually finds these magical people at this place called Anna's Village. That's the person it was Aunt Magic that who founded the village. And she gets her own magical powers, and they defeat this villain and stuff. And yeah, and I actually have a sequel to it. It's called Zoe's Village Part 2. So of course, if you're thinking why the hell is it called that, you'll if you read like the ending of the first one. But yeah, they're mainly fiction stories. All of them are fiction. Some of them they're love stories. Some of them they're just like magical stories. Some of them they're mysteries. Just they're all different.
Yeah, and I want to give you an example. Like there was one story I wrote in creative writing class at Perkins. The story was about I was laying in my bed at Perkins, and there was this big wind and rainstorm, and the wind was so powerful that it picked me up and it brought me home to my house. And when I got there, my parents said you have to go back to school, and a lot of that story was based on I missed home. I missed, I was away from home, obviously, and I was missing being at home. So that story was really based on that. To give you an example of what I wrote back then, that's one of the stories I wrote.
Huh.
Mm-hmm.
That clearly explains that he didn't like going to Perkins, clearly, because he just didn't him way back home. Clearly. One of my favorite stories, that is a good one. One of my favorite stories, of course I love them all, but one of my favorites is this book called Music Box, where it's about this group of high school seniors who love to sing, play instruments, dance, rap, whatever it may be. And they want to go on an adventure, they go into space, they go to this unique new planet they never heard of, and they find this small human population where there's this music box planted in the ground, and it has the little switch to the music box has to be turned 24 times, because if the music stops playing, the world will explode and everyone will die. Which of course the music box was put there by like an anti-musical witch, of course. So
Yeah.
or villain, whatever you want to call her.
Yeah.
So like I said before, the same thing with me when it comes to writing books, stories, play scripts, songs, or anything. I have to have a title, because if I don't, I have nothing. Normally people, they come up with the content first, then they come up with titles. That's totally backwards.
Yeah.
So, yeah. But yeah, that's how Thomas and I got into writing story, for our styles, what we like to talk about, and stuff like that. Thomas, what do you want people to know if someone's like, oh, I want to write a story, but I don't know what I want to do, or I don't know how people will think of it?
Well, the beautiful thing is that there's no, when you write a story, there's no right or wrong answer. Meaning, just write and see where it takes you. Sometimes when I write my stories, I don't even know. I don't know what's going to happen. And in a way, that's exciting for me anyway.
Well, a lot of things are exciting for you, Tom. Anyways, yeah. And for me, like, when I write stories, like I said, like, I come up with ideas as I go along. So, like, after I finish one chapter, I'm like, oh, this would be a good title for this. And by the way, my recent stories, not the majority of them, but, like, the recent ones, they actually have chapter titles. So let's see how this turns out. And the chapter titles are really interesting, which builds up the suspense of whoever reads the story. They're like, ooh, the chapter's called this? Great. And the moral of the episode today, guys, is that if you love to write whatever you want.
Exactly, yeah.
And you want to share it with people? Great. If you don't, that's fine. Some people, they might write stuff and they might go, I'm embarrassed to share this, which is totally fine. But but eventually you would want to share your stuff with people, because I think people can like share it with others. Hey, look at this cool work that my friend did, or that so and so did, and you never know. It could become a vlog. It could become like popular post on social media, or it can even be published.
Personally, for me, I really enjoy sharing my writing with others.
Yeah, so do I.
Yeah. They actually made me a book or a binder, or whatever you call it, of actually some of the stories that I wrote when I was at Perkins, which I still have the book. I don't know if you call it like a book or a binder, but yeah, it's cool. I still have that book with some of the stories that I wrote when I was in creative writing class at Perkins.
I gotta ask.
And that story about the wind taking me home is in that book. What were you gonna ask?
I was gonna ask. I know before you said that you didn't like going there, but did you at least like that class?
I love that class.
Okay.
And I wrote the stories at the time. I wrote my stories on the Brailler.
Yeah, for me, I started with girl. So started the Burbage channel.
Yeah.
No. Anyways, when I first started writing song lyrics, that was on the Brailler at the time. So unfortunately, I don't know where that binder is anymore. So that's okay. I'll just write songs as I go. Not a big deal. And with books and plays, I started writing them through the iPad.
Oh, okay.
And of course, when I got my computer, that's when I just copied them over, or just like retyped them all between the devices.
Yeah.
Yeah, there we go.
I just think it's really cool that I still have that book with some of the stories I wrote in creative writing class.
I'm curious, Thomas, with those stories, do you actually have titles?
No.
Of course not. Guys, please, I'm begging to differ. Whatever you write, whether if it's a short story, a novel, a book, a play, whatever, please have a title. Please. Because that is what draws people into wanting to read your stories. They're like, oh, the title's called this. What happens here? That's the point of a title.
Yeah.
And it also describes like what the story is, or like what it's based on, like in 2, 3, 4 words or something like that.
Yes,
so
yes.
just keep that in.
And if people are wondering, did you enjoy writing stories more on the Brailler or on the Apex? Well, the answer to that question is Yep, I much more enjoy writing my stories on the Apex.
And between the iPad and the computer, my answer would be the computer, of course.
There you go.
Yeah. Now, also with the iPad, I had a Bluetooth keyboard too, so it wasn't me like double tapping on each letter or whatever. So that would be annoying as hell.
Yeah.
Oh man. Okay. Cool. So.
Yes.
If you like this episode of the Thomas and Haley Show, please give it a like and a thumbs up. Please subscribe to Doing Your Blog. Which is my channel, please. Just turn on all notifications so you will not miss a single episode. And the normal time for each episode is every Sunday at 2, but it just might be earlier. It just depends on if we're available. And if you write stories, poetry, Haley songs, whatever, and you want to share all those experiences, put it in the comments section of this video when it uploads.
And if you want to be a guest on the Thomas and Haley Show, you can, for those of you who know me personally and have my number, of course you can text me, but for those of you who don't know me, and for those of you who don't have my number, you can email me at thomas.acasella@icloud.com. So that's thomas.acocella@icloud.com. Also, please subscribe to Kyle Cholino and Nikki's Fun Adventures.
Yeah.
And
Thank you guys for watching and listening.
yeah.
Sunday at 2 p.m. Eastern, 1 Central, or earlier.
Yep. You guys take care.